Hello everyone, it's Richard Lewis here with another video, and I know a lot of you guys have been, where's the latest edition of the Richard Lewis Show, where's the podcast at? It's on hiatus at the moment, it won't be for long. We've got a few things going on. We've recorded some. I think we're going to be able to get them out, but Sam's taken ill at the moment, nothing serious, but he's out of commission for a while, and I don't want to do the show without him because obviously, laughing at my jokes, the only person who will, definitely adds an extra dimension to it. But that's fine because there's plenty of things to be talking about in the world of esports. And today what I'm going to talk to you about is the Counter-Strike situation with TyLoo, the Chinese team. Now, I'm going to say right off the bat, and this is an incredibly stupid thing to say for people who want to make money and have popularity and want to sell that esports dream, but it's the fucking truth, and I'm just going to say it anyway because I really don't care. But the Chinese esports scene, like a lot of things in China, honestly, is a fucking sewer. It's an absolute nightmare for players that have to engage in it, for fans, for businesses, for talent, for workers. It's like almost anything that happens in China. You know, there's a lot of corruption. There's a lot of conflicts of interest. We've seen this in Dota 2 not too long ago. My end of year awards will certainly get into that. But it's incredible just what people have to go through because of, there's cultural standards that are a little bit different to the West, and real bad people involved out there. I remember a story about a Chinese League of Legends team, and the full story never came out, but I'm sure people will figure it out. But, there was gangsters turning up to a player's house and intimidating the team, and nobody knew where the money was coming from. Honestly, I've tried to stay as far away from it as possible because it just seems like a fucking headache. So keep all of that in mind when I talk about what's happened here, because it's one of the most ridiculous situations I think I've ever seen in terms of abuse of player rights. And yes, I'm going to take a side on this because based on all the evidence and based on talking to people privately, I've got my own ideas about how this has gone. And, hopefully you'll arrive at the same conclusions I have. So there was a lot of rumors flying around that TyLoo were going to make some changes. And, nothing is a secret. Roster changes are never a secret. You will hear about them on social media and on Reddit because the average person doesn't have to verify anything like a journalist does before they publish it. They can literally hear a rumor, repeat a rumor, and if they're wrong, there's no consequences. So very often social media will beat people to the punch. This is one such thread. You can see, rumor has it, there's a China shuffle incoming. TyLoo will be minus somebody, minus Fancy, minus Attacker, minus Casa. Sound in the net, I presume that means the rumblings on the internet, say that some money thing get the 3-player out of TyLoo. So, I assume that means contracts can be bought. None of us know if it will be the shuffle start. And you can see there's temporary stand-ins for WESG. Alex was rage at these young players, lol. And then the top comment there from I play WoW, lol. Good for you. Do you even check the news? It's been posted like 6 times. So there was definitely rumblings going around, that there was something going on with TyLoo. Now, we ended up finding out what that was. Because very shortly after all of the rumors, it came out, and I'll use the HLTV report, which is, going to quickly show you just how much of a shit show this is. I mean, it's truly spectacular. And there you have it. There's the HLTV report there. And I'll just read it to you. This was again by Benja CS, a new addition to the HLTV staff. It says that TyLoo players Attacker and Fancy One and the team's coach Carser have been displaced by the organization while somebody was suspended for contacting other teams. And yes, just in case you don't keep up with these things, there's a player called Somebody. So it might make this a little bit confusing. I'll try not to use the word somebody unless I'm referring to the player or in that sentence just there. Because obviously it'll end up like an Abbott and Costello skit otherwise, who's on first base and what have you. So anyway, it says that they have received that because they contacted other organizations, they have received bans from various tournaments, including WCA, the Pro Gamer League, ESL, and WESG. TyLoo are so upset and vitriolic about what's happened here that they are going to attend WESG with stand-in. So this is the World Finals, a big event for China, and we all saw how they did the groups. So we all know the Chinese teams were certainly favored in that. It wasn't random. This is what happens. And you can see they're using 3 stand-ins. So, I mean, for me, all but really thrown away their chance. Now, the collective group, the displaced group, got in touch with HLTV and explained a very key detail in the craziness of this story. And that was, first of all, the players never actually had a contract in writing with TyLoo. So immediately when I hear that, okay, I've done some digging. Now, I haven't seen anyone produce a contract. I suppose we can get into the discussion about whether verbal agreements are contractually binding, and certainly in some circumstances it can be argued they are, although that's a very nuanced issue and needs to be discussed in court and arbitration and that kind of thing. But honestly, you know, people are telling me this is legit, that they don't have contracts. Now, this is especially interesting because when an organization feels wronged, there's nothing to enforce. You don't have any rules or regulations you can enforce. You've done it on a handshake, spitting in the palm, and you just hope that it's all going to work out. And you'll see this quite a lot. You'll see a lot of low-tier esports organizations. Still to this day, they will do things on good faith. They will say, well, look, if the money turns up, then, you know, you'll play for us, and that's fine. I mean, certainly there's a lot of countries that have a legal understanding that if I say to you, hey, I will pay you $1,000 to do this job, right? And then by virtue of me paying you the $1,000, if you then don't do it, I've got the proof that I paid you $1,000, and you now have to argue what the $1,000 was for. You'll see that in some European countries. By giving you the money, I've effectively tasked you to do what it was that we discussed, and therefore we have a contract. But I'm certainly no expert on fucking Chinese law, let alone the absolute horror of Chinese esports. So, and equally it's got to be said as well, this is why I always say it, a good contract protects both parties, and both parties should want one. Because as you're going to see, it's the players here who have been absolutely bent over, and that wouldn't be allowed if there was a contract. I mean, I still get the impression TyLoo and the influence it exerts, it could have ruled with an iron fist. I mean, this sets an incredibly dangerous precedent, and I'm going to call some people out specifically, some entities out specifically, because having their name associated with this and they haven't come out and disavowed it or clarified the situation, well, go fuck yourselves. Really go fuck yourselves. So, back to the report. First of all, the players never actually had a contract in writing with TyLoo. The organization promised, we all know what an esports promise is worth, that the players would have the same basic salary for every single player, but they failed their promise. So they're saying there's been a material breach of the contract there. And again, you don't have a contract. You have a promise. So there's no such thing as material breach of a promise. I guess you can say they've broken agreement, but ultimately it doesn't necessarily, whether they break a promise or not, doesn't afford you any more or less protection. You can do whatever the fuck you want. DD and Fancy One were later offered more salary, but were told not to tell this to other teammates. DD accepted, Fancy One refused. This caused resentment for Attacker, Somebody, and Carcer. The organisation didn't keep their promise to pay everyone the same salary, so players decided to leave. Then TyLoo made an alliance with the event organisers to ban the players. We will give HLTV.org a more detailed statement on January the 11th. Right, let's get back into breaking this down. Now, first of all, I will say this to the credit of TyLoo. First of all, I don't think when you contract, you're not contracting a team. You're contracting a player. And when you contract an individual, all contract discussions are with that individual, private to that individual, and specific to that individual. I hate this stupid notion that everybody on a team should be paid the same salary in case someone's fees get hurt, right? That is stupid. That is completely stupid. Can you imagine any sports team in the world operating that way? Hey, Lionel Messi, good news. We've been talking it over and we all make the same money right now. Oh, that means everyone's getting what I get? No, actually, we've decided to bring you down in line with the second reserve goalkeeper. Obviously, that's fucking stupid. Star power should be rewarded. The principal way in which it's rewarded is through salary. That is how you go out there and get what you're worth as a player. So completely ridiculous and absurd to suggest that everybody should be paid equal in a team. I know a lot of players that actually believe this, that, oh, hey, we're all part of a team, man. Yes, some people make bigger contributions than others, and that should be rewarded with money. That said, if you're a team owner and you come in and you say, hey, I'm going to pay everyone the same in this team, I'm going to agree to do that, then you're an idiot, because why would you? Some players are going to bring a lot more to the table, whether it's streaming, just general popularity, their ability to articulate their ideas, being willing to do additional work. Maybe they're the guy that comes up with the tactics or reviews the demos. Those guys deserve more money. End of discussion. But once you've opened the door to the idea of, oh, hey, yeah, we'll all make the same, yeah, we're all in it together, we're all bros, we're all equal, we're all pulling the cart, yeah, we're all rowing that boat. Once you start talking that sort of nonsense, this is what you get. Now, that doesn't matter as it happens, because that isn't what the issue is. First of all, by not having a contract, none of it's relevant, really, in the grand scheme of things. You can all have agreements and promises, but players can do what the fuck they want because you didn't contract them to do otherwise. So, Yabu, sucks to you, TyLoo. But certainly, getting upset over money, while I understand it, and I certainly have been told that these Chinese players weren't making a particularly great salary commensurate to the best team in China, what you would expect them to make, I've got to say that, I do find arguing over money, especially when it's like against your own teammates, is a little bit gauche, I'm not really into that. So the next part of the statement, which came out, was TyLoo clarifying that what had actually happened, which is down here. And it says, since the TyLoo CSGO team returned to China after the E-League major qualifiers, where of course they failed to qualify, the team coach Carcer and Fancy One have been contacting other organizations while still in the contract period, and also persuaded teammates to join other organizations. This behavior has not only damaged the good relationship with the company, but also stimulated internal conflicts in the team. After serious consultations, the company has made the following decisions. So this is effectively the punishment, the penalties. They discharged Carcer, the coach. They moved Fancy One and Attacker into inactive status, and they cannot represent TyLoo in any events, and somebody has been suspended. I'm not too sure what the difference is. I guess suspended means there might be a way back for somebody or whatever. We also want to thank Didi and Mo for trusting the company in any situation. So, they also stated that Attacker had recently signed, and we're talking November, a new contract which doesn't expire until April 2019, while Fancy One and Somebody, their contracts expire in February of this year. And certainly they're the two that are disputing the existence of the contracts. But with February 2017 round the corner, obviously you're not going to get it resolved anyway. You know, by the time you go to arbitration, contest it, get them to, produce the contract or any agreement and debate it, it's February. So there really is no point. Now, with that said as well, I got to say, most contracts, and this is assuming there is one, which I don't believe, but, certainly not a binding one. Most contracts, what they do is they have this period where it's like, okay, my contract's coming to an end. I can now enter into negotiations with other parties and use that to negotiate before I re-sign my contract. Now, this is standard. This has to happen in any sport, because otherwise, where would you go? What would how would you get your market value? How would you even know what your market value is? You might never know, because if you just keep re-signing, thinking, oh, well, I'll stay with TyLoo, I'll stay with TyLoo, I'll stay with TyLoo, and you're never in a period where you can ever talk to anybody about what your market value is or what another team might be willing to pay you, you're always going to get fucked. You're always going to get, the worst deal possible, because it's going to be whatever the organization wants to pay you, and you're going to have to sign because you're not allowed to pursue any other options. The only way, according, if TyLoo's version is to be believed, the only way you could ever actually discuss with another team would be to let your contract lapse and risk never getting a job again. And we've seen how petty they are. They're completely cutting off their nose to spite their face here. Completely. They've suspended 3 players, brought in 3 stand-ins for a major tournament. They're not even willing to wait until the tournament's over to fucking get this sorted. So, I mean, what would happen? Yeah, I think I'm actually going to let my contract run out so I can talk to some other people, but I'll get back to you in a month. No, you won't. You'll never work in China again. Fuck you. That's what would happen. So, this is another way that organizations try and put the squeeze on players, and this is particularly bad. Right. Now, this is where it gets interesting. This is where it gets spicy, to use internet parlance. So you saw briefly in that HLTV report that they were banned from certain other tournaments. And this is a big deal. So I'm going to read you the full TyLoo statement here, and not just the abbreviated version that appeared on HLTV. And in it, you will notice, and as I said, this is all translated from Chinese. I'm willing to accept that some things may be lost in translation. I'll scroll you down to the English translation here. And again, thanks to whoever made these translations. I'm not too sure if it is indeed the Reddit user N0616JC, or whether it was actually an official translation that came with it. But whatever. So nobody's questioned the veracity of the translation. So TyLoo Club is an ancillary to the Zhejiang TyLoo Technology Limited, which will be hereon referred to as the company. So this is actually, just again, this might be a little bit weird, but this is actually quite common for a lot of esports organizations, especially ones in Asia, to be associated with a business, to be an arm of a business. The World Cyber Games, for example, it was a pretty open secret that was simply the esports division of Samsung. It was a way to have an esports event in a region that liked esports, and it was always sponsored by Samsung, and they were always using Samsung products. I wonder why that was. So you can see immediately the benefits of having an esports division if you're a big business. And this is the Zhejiang TyLoo Technology Limited company, which obviously owns TyLoo Club in its entirety. And again, these are the guys, by the way, that are upset and perhaps not understanding to the way esports works, or indeed sports work, because it's a big tech company. So you can see there the repeat of what we already read about E-League. You can see that the direct translation of what's happening to somebody isn't suspension, but an observation period, which is very fucking Orwellian, isn't it? Like, oh, he's under observation now. If we can re-assimilate him back into the TyLoo way of thinking, he might get back into the team. This is disgraceful. Do you want the player or don't you? Are you keeping him in a contract gulag or aren't you? What is it? That's particularly worrying. And you can see that they say it again, it's severely endangered the Chinese esports environment and the rights and interest of the business. The club, after in contact with the tournament organizers in the country, has decided to jointly oppose the above-mentioned action with the principle of good and healthy development of the Chinese esports industry in mind. And therefore, the following decision has been made. Until the issue with the contract can be resolved properly, team members of the club, Fancy and Attacker, will be barred from attending tournaments. Decisions for somebody will be made in accordance with his action during an observation period. And this is what they're banned from. So they can't play in IMBA TV tournaments. They can't play in WCA tournaments. They can't play in CGA tournaments. They can't play in PGL tournaments. They can't play in the WESG tournament. They can't play in domestic ESL tournaments. And they can't play in China Top. So they are completely fucked for playing any domestic tournament whatsoever, as long as this, issue is what they call outstanding. Now, this is quite spectacular because there is no world in which a tournament organizer should be saying, oh, what's that? An independent tournament organizer, right? Forget your wannabe organizations, associations, and arbitrary bodies and all of this, your WESAs, your PEAs, who really want to be a one-stop shop. They want to rule the league, rule the teams in the league, own everything, own the broadcasting right. It's a bit ridiculous. This is why they're so unwieldy and cumbersome. But if I'm an independent tournament organizer, what fucking business is it of mine if a team in my league and a player in my league is having a dispute? It's none of my fucking business. I don't give a fuck. And guess what? If he joins another team and registers with that team and that team is set to play in my league, I'm not saying he can't play. Why the fuck am I going to get involved? That's ridiculous. And this is where I will call these people out by fucking name. You heard the names. Some of these organizations don't just operate in China. Now, I got to say, it's a little bit different. To get into China, yes, you have to work with Chinese companies and be licensed and all this other nonsense. You have to grease the right palms. But ESL, right, you can't put your name on that. You cannot say that you are okay agreeing to ban a player from competing in your league until a contract dispute is resolved, to effectively hamper his freedom of movement, his right to move to another team. You can't come out and say that you support that. What the fuck's WESA about? Don't you want to, fight for player rights? Isn't that what you want to do? Because if it is, then start now. Start now by saying, actually, ESL will not support that decision. You can't do anything about the Chinese tournaments because it's all one big fucking treehouse. Yeah, okay. But if you're a fucking world tournament organizer and you operate just in that region, how can you stand by this and allow this? Here's what these players did. These players heard they weren't going to get the same amount of money as other people in the team. So they decided to explore other options. You mean the shit that goes on every fucking day in esports and sports across the world? Oh my me, whatever will we do? Anyone treating this like a fucking scandal is a moron, by the way. The only scandal is this organization trying to ban players and keep them in a contract gulag for a contract that, as far as we can tell, doesn't even fucking exist. It's ridiculous. So if you put your name on that, fuck you. Don't you ever talk about player rights again. Don't you ever bring it up, because that is like a turd tumbling out of your mouth and falling into my fucking drink. Fuck you. Seriously, fuck you. If you are going to sign off on players being banned from tournaments because they're having problems internally with their organization, and I'll tell you what will fucking blow your mind, right? This is happening actually in the West. It's not an Asian exclusive issue. This is the first time I've ever seen it actioned, but I've seen plenty of people behind closed doors threaten it, and I won't name names, but when certain teams don't want to toe the line and don't want to operate within certain parameters set by other people who don't actually have any right to dictate how they do their business, all of a sudden, people try and leverage what tournaments they can play in. Certainly, there's been threats made towards certain people about LCS. Certainly, WISA, PEA, ESL. Look, I wrote about FaZe when Jens Hilgers did this. You know? Jens Hilgers was the guy who, when they were doing the whole G2 acquisition and FaZe were going to buy them, Jens Hilgers was the guy, and he says, oh, this never happened, this is complete lie. All right, mate. Jens Hilgers was the guy who was saying, look, if you fucking walk and you go to FaZe and we don't get our due compensation, bad fucking news. You're not going to fucking be allowed to play in ESL events. That's legit. That's what happened. So people need to fucking wake up to the fact that these leagues, whenever they talk about player rights and how they want to help people and how they want to fucking, you know, we want to champion the players and the orgs and ourselves. You can't do it all. You can't do all three. You're fucking mad if you think you can. It's ridiculous. Okay. Next part of this incredible fucking saga. So yes, we know that the incident, what it led to, and that these players are looking like they were banned. Just to be clear, there's a Chinese social media thing called Weibo, and Fancy One. Well, first Carcer said, it surprises me that the organization can make things up like this. I did nothing wrong. I am the victim. That was what he said. Then Fancy One added, it takes time to know people, lol. In other words, he's feeling betrayed. Attacker, he said, I do not play for money. I just want to play with friends who share the same course with me and fulfill our dreams together. I am grateful I did not choose the wrong side. Now, look, ultimately, that's bullshit, because I don't get out of bed for fucking less than $100, you know what I mean? Like, obviously, you've got to make your bank and stack your paper, and people who say that they don't care about that, I'm always dubious about people who say they don't care about money, because in my experience, they're always the people who really care about money. They care about it more than almost anyone else. But, you know, look, there's nothing wrong with caring about money. If you're fiscally fucking motivated, that's completely fine. So, as they promised, we were going to get, you know, a new statement that was going to come out from the players. So, Fancy One did it, and he gave it across to hltv.org, as is the place where these things go. And you can see here, Fancy One, we didn't damage TyLoo. And that's the principal allegation here, that by somehow having them decide that they are going to pursue their right, and again, I'm talking about this as a right, to explore their options as players, they have somehow damaged TyLoo. They've somehow damaged the organization. Now, his statement, again, translated, it was quite a long one. He said, I am willing to accept legal responsibility if anything I say is not the truth. So there you go. Like, and this is absolutely another point. If any of this is lies, TyLoo have the money, the influence, the lawyers to completely annihilate anybody if they've got evidence that proves any of this to be defamatory. Let's keep all of that in mind when we're listening to what players are saying. This is Fancy One, professional CSGO player for TyLoo Gaming. The announcement by TyLoo about banning us from attending future tournaments has been made public to the Chinese CSGO scene. However, I am feeling the absolute necessity to clear this whole thing up to you, since all four of us, Fancy One, Somebody, Attacker, and Carcer, have been the biggest victims. We've been under unfair treatment by the TyLoo organization. More seriously, we have been threatened and menaced and banned by TyLoo and other tournament organisers. All these measures have been taken only because we plan not to extend our contract with TyLoo. This is the Chinese esports scene. And again, this is certainly what I've heard, that if people want to go the way, if people want to pursue movement and it's not sanctioned by the club, you will be bullied into staying. This is how it works out there. I clearly know what I'm saying, and I will probably affect my future career, but I'm feeling the responsibility of letting all Chinese CSGO fans and industry people know the truth and the facts. The whole thing, I think, originated from the loss we had at the end of 2015 at the StarLadder I-League China qualifier. Before that, TyLoo had not been champions in a long time, the vital tournament to be at SL I-League. After that loss, big internal issues occurred among the team. However, unlike what happened now, we, the players, didn't have contracts with TyLoo back then. The night of the loss, I had a long talk with Attacker when he wasn't in TyLoo at that time, and of course Attacker's a relatively new kid on the block, about the possibility of forming a new team because we had the same dream, which was not motivated by making money. Only when we achieve our dream will we have a clear conscience about the money we make. We did make a lot of effort to climb to the top of China from the bottom. The night after the loss, TyLoo's manager found us and talked about the future of our team. I said, if we still can't become champions, our team will part ways. And then Kindy said with tears in his eyes and appearing sad, please stay. Even if I need to invest in the team personally, no matter what happens, I won't let this TyLoo team break up. We will stay on for one more year. I was feeling bad when I saw him in tears, and I really wanted to help him. After the talk, we got a 1-week break. Meanwhile, one of the interested organizations contacted me about forming a team built around me. We will give you a nice treatment, and you can pick anyone you want to be teamed with. I'll give you 20 times the salary as you have now, they said. And again, if you think this is an exaggeration, understand what I'm saying here about Chinese money. There's a lot of it, and certainly they will spend it. Look what's happening to League of Legends players. You know, Korean people are going to play out in China, not because they particularly want to live in China, not because they particularly respect the Chinese style of play or the competition in the Chinese league, because they're getting paid a metric fuck ton. And nobody asks where the money's coming from. Nobody cares. I'm sure some of it's legit. I'm sure some of it isn't. But it's a way to get rich. So 20 times the salary probably is not an exaggeration. I was shocked. I talked about it with my family and friends. All of them recommended me to have a go at it. Of course they did. But I wasn't convinced. Finally, when I considered how Kindy looked, when we had that talk and what he said, I refused the offer because I didn't want to hurt a friend who I had been with for a long time. In addition, I did feel there was potential in Kindy, the manager, and TyLoo. I thought he would help us pursue our dream, so I just refused the offer from the other organisation. After I-League, we had our first contact with Jason P., who is the shareholder of 5eplay.com and 5ewin.com, who later became the biggest shareholder in TyLoo. I thought he would just make a plan for our future development. At that time, Jason P. appeared to be a very smooth talker. Of course, this is the businessman that comes in. What he said made good sense, and what he offered us seemed to be better than what it had been before. However, everything he promised was just talk, and it only seemed to be good. In the end, most promises have not come to fruition, even by now. So a new shareholder comes into the team, makes a bunch of promises that he can't deliver upon because he's probably not even the majority. He says he's the biggest shareholder. I presume that means out of all the additional shareholders. I don't think it means he's the majority guy running the team. Unless, of course, what's happened is TyLoo have sold it to him. And this is Chinese business, so good luck. They've sold it to him and retained a small stake. Now, if that's the case, we need to know, because this makes all the difference. We have no idea what the finances are like for this organization, or indeed who's in charge. You've got one guy who just happens to be a shareholder making direct promises to the teams and players. On what authority? So we struck a deal. I introduced Carcer and Attacker to the team. Since then, TyLoo have achieved much. It's true. They've been on an upward trajectory. At the beginning of 2016, the team did a great job, and we were moving along step by step. After that, we achieved many goals, and TyLoo was satisfied with our achievements. More importantly, we felt the distance to our dream was closing. During this pursuit, we didn't ask more from the TyLoo organization, while making every effort to work hard and improve. Before we signed the contract, TyLoo management promised us a lot, but it was never in any contract. Still, most promises haven't been realized. We had trust in TyLoo, so we didn't consider a possible dispute. We signed contracts. Later, when we reached our bottleneck, specifically at the time when we were about to go to the US for the major qualifier, we talked to management a little about changing the roster. After the major qualifier, Kindy said to me he was disappointed in Mo and may have to replace him. The new roster would include Carcer instead of Mo. This decision was made by all of TyLoo's management and team. At that point, everyone was satisfied with this and promised to keep working. So here you go. After returning from the US, the contracts that they'd only just signed, so these were obviously short-term ones, were about to end. So we started to talk with TyLoo about salaries and other treatments to see whether there would be a chance to increase it. But unexpectedly, the talk, which I think is absolutely normal, and I agree with him, led to many disputes and unhappiness from the TyLoo management. Probably the TyLoo management started to feel the possibility that we will leave TyLoo if they didn't increase our salary. So, I mean, obviously that's how it works. Like, that's what happens. You have to pay people, star players, to stay. If you don't do that, then they're going to leave. They planned on other ways to make us stay, like by buying someone or a couple of us. Previously, we were a whole entity, and that was why we won a lot. However, after many wins, we became divided somehow. So this is what he means by that is that, you know, some people they wanted to retain some players and not others, and create a division by offering people more money and buy them, in inverted commas, you know, not literally. So this is where the issues start to arrive. You know, the existing players who wanted increased money didn't get it. The players who didn't ask for anything get it to show this is how you handle things. Very strange. However, after many wins, we became divided somehow. Now, it finally ended with 3 of us being banned. I'm absolutely sure that this guy, who was offered money like me, used to stand beside us. The reason he betrayed us is that Jason P had a talk with us, and he promised both of us a better treatment than the rest of the teammates if we kept it from them. Jason P knew if we, DD and I, stayed, the whole team would stay. We were a brotherhood, and that is how we would keep improving. However, I was feeling disgusting about keeping this from my teammates. I didn't want to hurt my brothers by accepting a higher salary. We've been a team and brothers for a long time inside and out of the game. I can't live with keeping such a dirty secret while getting more money. If the secret leaked, our team would be hurt way more seriously. At that point, I stood to lose 5 friends, so I told others about the talk and asked Jason P to offer us money evenly. Jason P refused my request, and since then, things started to spiral downwards. Since Jason P failed to deal with me, he turned to somebody, and he failed again because he was on my side. So they've tried this divide and conquer tactic in the team for reasons I don't really grasp. What Attacker posted on Weibo is that we are holding on to, we just want to play with brothers. Jason P told us the salaries can't be even. This is an esports club, which is, you know, as I said, not a ridiculous premise. But if all the players are saying that's what we want, then you've got a problem. You stand to lose the team. You stand to create divisions. You are willing to pay some and not others. It's just bizarre. It's a bizarre stance. You know, the players are telling you, yeah, we all want it to be the same. It's not players coming and asking for individual money, you know, on the sly, on the secret. They're actually being transparent with each other. This is a very rare situation indeed. During the last meeting, he said, if you guys want to stay and pursue your dream, I'll cooperate with you guys fully. If you want more, it's okay to form a team by yourselves or head to other organizations. We can part ways without bad words. I won't stay in your way and will wish you guys the best. After this, we began to rethink our decision, but considered the way Jason P conducted his business, we were afraid of what he might do, kidnapping us by contract. We asked for a few clauses in the contract could be modified, and Jason P agreed. Considering all the things he promised at the start of the year, which never panned out, we decided to start an org and form a team on our own. So this is player power in action. We don't trust these people because they've broken multiple promises in the past, so we're going to start our own organization. This is how it should be happening. After that day, we didn't ask for more, but planned on how we can play our best in the next tournament until our contracts end, so that we will finish our duty. A few days later, Jason P talked to Carcer, somebody in Attacker, to persuade them to stay by promising to keep the current roster unchanged. After a long discussion among us, again, we changed our minds. However, surprisingly, only one night later, we got to know that TyLoo was going to sign HZ, who previously played for AG, which meant Jason P had lied to us again. We decided we wouldn't trust him anymore. One day he said the roster would stay the same, and the next he would change it. We couldn't take it. During the last meeting we had with Jason P at 5E, everything turned black. They decided to ban us, claiming that we were contacting other organizations under contract, damaging TyLoo's business. I'm certain we didn't break any rules. We just lost trust in our organization. Our shareholders were just turning us into a profit-earning machine. We were drifting away from our dream and our goals. What I am certainly sure about is the reason why we decided to leave TyLoo, because we are feeling hopeless here, and we informed our shareholders and management about our decision. We didn't sign any contract with other orgs during the time contracted to TyLoo. We didn't leave. What we were thinking was to keep playing our best for TyLoo. Moreover, we promised to play the tournament after our contracts expired, which was going to be the DreamHack Masters in Las Vegas, and do our best to make the leaving process amicable. However, TyLoo banded with Chinese tournament organizers to ban us from attending their matches, even after our contracts expire. This is absolutely ridiculous. The reason they banned us, TyLoo claims, is that we'll damage their profit by leaving the team, while TyLoo has other contracts which are longer than ours with sponsors. This makes no sense. Relationships between org and sponsors have nothing to do with relationships between player and orgs. They fucking don't. We are feeling really wronged. We have been victims for no reason. We really look forward to being freed. It is absolutely unfair that an esports club colluded with tournaments to ban players. This is bullying. It's worse than that, mate. Lastly, I heard Jason Peace abuse directed at me during our last meeting. I was very upset. TyLoo's achievement throughout the whole year came from our tireless efforts. We did nothing to damage TyLoo. What we were thinking was to get a deal, be it staying or leaving amicably, and a peaceful agreement. TyLoo banned us from CSGO, the whole of CSGO, for leaving their organization. They wanted the only way to play CSGO for us to be to stay in TyLoo. In the announcement by TyLoo, they claimed that I personally tried to persuade other teammates to leave. Sound familiar, Reggie? I have to respond that I never did this. Now, everything has made me lose faith in TyLoo. Nice words and promises have just meant to cozy us up to players. Within the contract, they can and will do everything unfair to us. I just want to go back to our original dream and find out Chinese CSGO can give us more passion. So, long statement, very thorough. And he's covered all of the bases there. And ultimately, this is the issue here. First of all, to single him out because they're like, oh, you know, you are manipulating people. As I said, sound familiar? It's a ridiculous allegation. Players are very capable of making up their own minds. So, clearly, they're not telling the whole story there because there must be a division because some have been deemed okay to stay by the organization and have been thanked by the organization. They took the payout. They took the payout to stay. It's the three and the coach that have been fucked that were willing to stay together. And now, as I said, I don't even believe in these contracts because they've been changed, altered, they were short-term, they agreed to make alterations. It's a fucking mess. There's no way there's anything binding between all of these parties. There's just no way. These are discussions that are happening. And if you agree to do this and do that and sign this and don't read that and then we're changing this clause, a contract becomes unenforceable at that point. So, I certainly think that in this mess, we can see that these Chinese players have been absolutely wrecked by TyLoo. I mean, completely. And whatever you think about the stupidity of the way it's handled and, you know, oh, we all want it to be equal or whatever, you know, as I said, I think that's a stupid stance. But it's the stance they wanted. And it was the thing they were willing to agree on. And if you don't have a contract in place and it's all being done verbally and handshakes and maybe a little bit of paper and everything's changed and everything's like this, you know, you don't have the right to stop them going and talking to other organizations. Now, what really upsets me, and I mean really upsets me, isn't just the fact they've been banned from all of these organizations and that it's going to run beyond when their contracts are meant to end, which is just a few weeks away. And as I said, I would consider them null and void at this point. The reality is, why hasn't there been a much bigger fucking outcry? Let's think about what happened with all of PEA. And certainly, I think there was some very shady shit going on there. I've made my views on that quite clear. You know, the team owners go out, have secret meetings, basically decide where the players are going to play, demand that the players have blind faith in a new league, and when the players vote to stay in another league, they just drop the CSGO division completely, drop all plans to have a CSGO league, which completely invalidates all of the arguments they used to justify it in the first place. So, you know, that's pretty bad. But that's nothing compared to this. And yet, here they are, you know, oh, we all love TyLoo, don't we, in the CS community? We all love them. Yeah, it's great to have the Chinese teams here. Let's all embrace them. Yeah, I'd love to see them at more events. Oh, they're so cool. Wow, they got such an interesting playing style. Wouldn't it be great if TyLoo made it to the major? All of this outpouring of bullshit? Well, where's your fucking outpouring of outrage? How they've been treated? And don't say you're waiting for the fucking full version to come out. It's there. It's done. It's out. No one's disputing anything that's been said. The egregious part is agreed upon universally by all parties. Why aren't people upset about it? Why aren't people coming out and advocating for these people? Why aren't fucking, these organizations that profess to care about player rights reaching out to these players? Why aren't lawyers reaching out to get involved, to fucking bail them out and parachute them into a fucking organization where they can make the money they deserve and get away from being bullied? And why aren't people threatening to boycott? WESG was happening. We got people dropping out because they just don't want to go to China before the major. Why aren't people dropping out in utter disgust at how these people have been treated? I mean, fuck that tournament. But no, it's money, isn't it? There's so much money going. There's no fucking solidarity here. So it's completely ridiculous, and I'm appalled. I'm absolutely appalled, which is why I'm making this video. I hope somebody is going to pick up on this and do something about it. Because I vow, right, if there's any way I can fuck any of these people back and give them a hard time, I'll tell you now, expect it to come. I'll be doing it. Anybody that supports any organization that are going to ban players based on them having a dispute with their team owner, team organization, shareholders, whatever fucking nonsense it is, has got no place in esports. Legit, fuck you. So there you have it. And, if you missed all of this, because it's a busy time and the major's coming, if you did miss all of this, certainly I hope you're as outraged as I am. I guess if you're not, give me a good counter-argument down below. I do read the comments, which, is why my beard keeps going grey. But just to end it, I feel incredibly sorry for these TyLoo players. Certainly didn't deserve this for exercising their rights to be, financially compensated for what they offer and bring to the table. And I got to say, I don't think anyone's going to do anything about it because it's over there in China. And we're all, we're all too fucking scared. Or we all want that big fucking Chinese bank. So, bullshit. Yaboo. Sucks to you. Thoughts go out to the TyLoo players. Anyway, I'm going to go and do something productive. Catch you later. See you on the next video.